Welcome you all here at the Consulate General of Italy in Park Avenue 690 for the inaugural event of New York Loves Italy. Let me really thank all the guests, all the distinguished guests who are here, who have chosen to be here in this rainy October evening of New York, when we perfectly know that there are a lot of other concurring events tonight in New York. So we are very happy that you are here. We feel so responsible that you are here, that we chose to have two geniuses, two very, very distinguished speakers. Let me in particular thank Penny Abeywardena, the Commissioner for International Affairs of the City of New York. Madam Secretary of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the City of New York, your presence here is very important. It means a lot for us. I think that this is the seal, further seal of the friendship between New York and Italy, and just 40 hours after the another big seal of friendship between Italy and the US, which was the state visit of our Prime Minister Renzi at the White House in Washington. So thank you very much. But why? Why are we organizing this New York Loves Italy initiative? Why should the consulate, which normally issues a passport, visa, and does paperwork day and night, or from time to time we do boring cocktail with Ferrero Rocher, why should we organize an event like this? Because after my first 7 months here in New York City, me and my team, we realized that behind this fantastic concept, New York Loves Italy, which of course works both ways, both directions, there is an incredible and amazing reality, an amazing flow of energy, of passion, of talent that need to be shared, that need to be told and explained to all the audiences. And we thought that the consulate, this Piazza Italia, this place is the right place where we can gather all this energy to tell these stories, to tell stories about Italy, to tell stories about the Big Apple and how we share the same passions, the same values, and how we care about the future together. We want to do that in a very light way, fueled by Campari, Aperol Spritz, the two comfortable Poltrona Frau chairs, in a sort of, you know that the famous Italian writer Italo Calvino wrote an essay about leggerezza, the lightness, and he particularly referred to leggerezza pensosa. We think that this thoughtful lightness could be the line that inspires all this conversation. We'll have several ones, once a month, one, let's say every month and a half, about science, about technology, about food, about movies, about a lot of things. And you know, Italians are very proud of their past, like the New Yorkers. But like every New Yorker, we also care a lot and we're passionate about our future. And I think this initiative also aims at building together a better future in this city, which is, of course, the laboratory of the future of the planet. I think that's also, in this sense, it's not a coincidence that in Italy, lately, there have been big investments on digital. Amazon is setting up an artificial intelligence center in Torino. Apple has made a big investment for apps, a lab for the apps in Naples, and also Google, I think they are planning to invest in Milan. So there is a movement that, an important international financial movement directed towards Italy, which is, of course, is the country of tourism, of food, of opera, but not just that. And this initiative also will explain that. The theme of today, the issue is digital, which is the new language of today, which is the new blood that is flowing in the veins of everybody today, and is the perfect example of the combination between tradition and innovation. And to discuss this important topic, we have two geniuses, and I'm really grateful to both of them to be here tonight with us. Sreenivasan, a big round of applause for him. He is the well-known Chief Digital Officer of the New York City. I think today is your 4th day of work in this new important position. You have an outstanding, amazing career behind you and ahead of you. You have been the director, the digital director of the Metropolitan Museum. You have been the most important professor at Columbia Digital Journalism School. And I think that you are the best expression of how the future could and will have a human face. Probably because also you come from an ancient and very wise civilization like the Indian one. So really thank you, Sri, to be here. I know that you have said publicly that you don't want to be just the Manhattan Chief Digital Officer. So to bring you in the Upper East Side, we had to organize this in a consulate in an international ground. You are here in an Italian ground. And I want to really thank also Gianni Riotta, the famous professor Gianni Riotta. Big applause. Who is a leading Italian personality in the world of the media, of politics. He is now professor at Princeton. He writes for so many newspapers in Italy and around the world. He has been the boss of the most important daily TV news in Italy, the Mitico TG1, for those of you who are Italians, director at the helm of the leading Italian business paper, and so on, so on. We owe you a lot, all the civil servants, all the diplomatic service, because you are a tireless source of inspiration, of advice. You are the perfect bridge between Italy and the United States. And it's enough to say that when I landed here in New York, he gave me the advice. He said, you must absolutely know a person called Sreenivasan, who will be the leading person in New York. I didn't know if you had, Gianni, some inside information about his future, but you really can forecast the future, I think. So I'm sure that the conversation of tonight is a really powerful mix. It's like a good Campari cocktail, shaken and not stirred. And between the civilization of Sicily, of India, Princeton, Columbia, all your role, I'm sure that the result will be a powerful mix and a very, very interesting night for all of us. So thank you very much. Enjoy the conversation. I don't know if Commissioner Abeywardena want to address the audience.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to quickly reaffirm that New York indeed does love Italy. So thank you so much.
So
it's official. But really wanted to thank you for thinking essentially outside of the box in terms of how diplomats can participate in New York City. When Mayor Bill de Blasio became mayor a few years ago and appointed me into this role, it had been really important. The diplomatic community, we have the largest diplomatic corps in the world, was really in Turtle Bay, in this Upper East Side area. And how do we take the work that and the knowledge of different countries to different parts of our boroughs and partner in these strategic ways around issues that matter both to us here in New York City, but also to Italians here in New York, but also in Italy. And so this has been, I think, a really exciting moment for us. Congratulations on this inaugural event. It is featuring my newest favorite colleague, and I cannot wait to hear what he has to say tonight. But thank you all. I'd like to thank Campari as well. What a wonderful sponsorship. It's my favorite drink, so this all worked out wonderful. But congratulations on this, and again, New York indeed does love Italy.
Grazie. Gianni, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Consul. Sri, please have a seat. And so many friends here, and it's impossible to acknowledge all of you because every guest here tonight is a friend and a guy that could be simply with us on this table. The Consul started quoting from Calvino the Norton Lectures, 6 memos from for the next millennium. And Italians are very much in love with the first one on lightness, because it really strikes something that is close to the idea of Italians. But I insist, the important one is the last one, is on multiplicity. And Sri, this is like the very last page that Calvino died, because while he was working on it, he passed away in the summer of 1985. And the last paragraph starts with this sentence. In Italian says, il futuro del romanzo è una rete. Il futuro del romanzo è una rete. The future of the novel is a web. It has been translated, actually, Giovanna Calvino gave me the new translation in English as the future of the novel is a network. But I would dare to suggest that we should translate it as a web. And Calvino, like really living this world, got this inspiration that the future of the novel was the web. A few years earlier, in 1967, he gave a conference in Turin saying, computers will soon write novels, soon. And this is actually great. I know that my colleagues are going to be very offended by this, but this is great. Computers will write novel, and this is great because nothing in writing a novel is peculiar to being human. I can teach a machine to write a novel, and then once machines will provide us with stories, we can do our best job, that is enjoying the stories, because the most important person is not the writer, it's the reader. And 5 years earlier, the Italian poet Nanni Balestrini wrote what is assumed to be the first poem written by a computer, quote unquote written, Tape Mark I in 1962. It's quite actually lovely to read, and you can find it on the web. Both the Calvino lectures, Cybernetics and Ghosts, 1967, and the poem by Balestrini, 1962. When my students started to work on this, we thought like, how come the Italians in the early 60s were so innovative? And the first prototype of a personal computer was assembled by a Chinese-Italian scientist at Olivetti, Mario Chu. Why were they so, obsessed with innovations? Guys, something that we cannot say today. I see the director of the institute, Giorgio Van Straten, here. Giorgio, I would not say that the Italian writers today are obsessed with innovations. If I could say something about them, they're obsessed by, let's talk about the past. How good was the past? How much more interesting was the past? What a failure is the future? We're doomed. So what we are trying to work with Consulate Genuardi, and of course his wife Isabella, that does the real work. Well, I guess you should clap for her, because while the consul is here chatting about innovation, she's actually doing the real innovation. And Italy, in its long story, a bit too long, has been a catalyst for innovation, really a catalyst for innovation. And Sri, the meeting of Italy and New York has always been a catalyst for innovation. I was a student at Columbia University. You were a wonderful teacher there. And il signor Da Ponte, that wrote the libretto for Don Giovanni di Mozart, when Columbia was still called King's College, was a teacher there. And what he did, pretty much, he was innovating the way people would write librettos. Librettos were about the past, like classical world. And he said, like, why don't we write something about people getting love and actually getting killed for love? Why don't we do something sexier? And he was successful, and then came to this country to teach. Introducing Sri is pointless, because if you don't Google him, who are you? So Google him. In the fall of 2013, I decided to take his class at Columbia University, And it was a life-changing experience. Usually, when you get to be my age and with the kind of lifestyle that I had, a life-changing experience means that you get a heart attack and die. Actually, there is nothing to laugh about, Karen. It's tragic. It really changed my way of working on the digital world, because what Sri taught me is that it's not the machine. I never seen Sri interested in hardware. Correct me, Sri. It's not the software. Sri knows a lot about software. He works on software. It's not the connection, the web, the phone, the websites, the social media. It's the interaction about you and the technology. You and the technology. While all the media critics, Morozov, Carr, they are mesmerized either with us or with the technology, Sri is one of the best minds that is today working on the connection between us and the technology, because he understands that the real revolution is how we're changing the machine, and I consider the web a machine, and how the machine is changing us. Okay? We change them. Every time you Google something, you are changing Google, and every time you Google something, Google is changing you. So, Sri, help us. There are many Italians here. Any Italian here raise hands? Dual citizen. Come on, Berger, you're more Italian than you're from New Jersey. What exit? Exactly. So Italian from New Jersey. You know. Okay. How is innovation changing our life, and what can we do more to use innovation better to our advantage?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here and to spend some time with all of you. And that was a wonderful introduction by the Consul General, and Gianni is very, very generous in what he's been saying. But you have to know that he is an amazing. Those of you from Italy, you know his reputation as a journalist, but also as a professor and thinker, and especially with the non-Italians. Please check out. I might have to borrow your mic. The way that he has been helping understand digital media has been wonderful. And what he didn't say when he said he took my class, he had 150,000 followers when he was taking my class on Twitter already. And that tells you something about him, that anybody who has that kind of stature, digital stature, will say, I don't need to learn anything. But at his, as he said, at his age, deciding to go and learn with us. And I see my friends Karen and Linda in the back. We were all teaching together, and it was wonderful to meet him and to get to know him over the last few years. I'll also say that you're in a very unusual situation here at the consulate. You may not know this, but your Consul General knows how to operate the Twitter account of the consulate, which is amazing. He and his deputy, I think it's the highest level of social media use by diplomats. A lot of diplomats from around the world could learn from them on how to do it. So that means they are front line in connecting with the people, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I don't think it's sustainable long term, so if anyone's watching from Italy and has access to budgets, please send lots of money so they can hire a whole digital team. But in the meantime, the fact that the diplomatic staff is involved, I think, is wonderful and a great thing. I should also, before I answer Gianni's question, just say a couple of things about why this Indian guy, born in Japan, my father had no problem finding me at the window. He said, the brown one is mine. You might be wondering, what have I got to do with Italy? I am wearing, I believe, the exact right shade of Italian red in my pocket square. But beyond that, it's been an amazing relationship that I've had with Italy. I lived in the Soviet Union when I was a little kid. I used to grow up, I was growing up speaking Russian, and I was a good communist. And when we lived in Moscow, we went on a life-changing trip at the age of 7 to Italy that I've never forgotten. I remember every single part of that trip. And then to take my children there last summer and to watch my son play at a camp for Juventus was a wonderful experience for him, and for my family and I to travel to all the big Italian cities. We didn't get to Rome and some others, but just to spend time in Milan and Venice and Vicenza was very, very important to us. And we learned about, and we taught some classes in an innovation program, and what we learned is that the Italian love for design, love for language, the love for poetry, the love for philosophy, all of that is more relevant today than ever before. And it's not just the machines, it's not just the software. And it was so wonderful to be in that atmosphere. And I made a hashtag called Sreenath, which I've been using. And if you go online, you can see it. The #1 tweet from that whole trip was my wife made an offhand comment. She said, "What I love about Italy is the Renaissance, the gelato, and the wine," not in that order necessarily. And she said, "Don't tweet that." And I said, "Too late." And we have that arrangement in our house that she has to be very careful what she says around me. But I tweeted that and I said, thank God she didn't say the men. And that was the only saving grace in that. So as soon as our new Consul General came to New York and I had a chance to meet him, I told him that the place I worked, before I worked in the city, is a love letter to Italy. And you know that in terms of the Metropolitan Museum is a place that's dedicated to Italy in large part in its collection, but also in the way it has understood the impact of cultural history that flows through Rome and flows through Italy is so meaningful for so many people who work there and visit from all over the world. And the Italian Consul General's home overlooks the Met, and I think that's a wonderful connection. So as soon as he said, we're going to be doing this series, and he invited me, I was delighted. So I've forgotten completely Gianni's question, so he's going to ask it again. But I think it was really about how do we keep our humanity in the midst of all the technology. I want to tell you that our friends are actually Facebooking this live so that anyone awake in Italy can watch this at, what time is it, like 2 in the morning or midnight or so. But if you, I think it's been retweeted off the main account. So if you follow, I hope you all follow Italy in NY. Please follow that on Twitter. Please follow on Facebook. It's very important so that they, so please do that. And then you can all join in as well. And we have some people watching, is that right? Yeah, that's great. And so if there are any questions come in, please let us know from there as well. Sorry? Yeah, exactly. But this is being recorded and being properly put together for later. So I think as we think about our humanity, it's something that I think a lot about. My job, working for a great Italian American, as you all know, and Mayor de Blasio, is about helping the city be a place that understands technology and building on the great work that our colleagues already have. So most people, when you ask someone what is their job, you really don't know what their day-to-day work is. Like you may know somebody, but you don't know exactly what they do. But our mayor decided to tweet out my job description. He said, Sri, we're going to make New York the most digitally friendly, the most transparent, and the most digitally equitable city in the world. It's very simple, very clear, and very scary, because a year from now, the mayor could pick up that list and say, okay, which of these have you done? And he didn't say one of, he said the most. So that I love that scale of the ambition of the task. But my job is to help bring attention to the work that's happening. I'm only on day 4 in New York City and learning so much about the work that our colleagues do all over the city. You just heard from the commissioner of one agency, and we have 70 plus agencies, all of them so active, doing important work. And I've been sitting there in meetings and just making notes of concepts, of ideas that I didn't know that I'm excited about as a resident, let alone as the person who works for the city. And I think that your question ties directly into my work in terms of how do we make it possible for the people in New York to make their connections with the government at every point that they make a connection with the government to make it painless as much as possible. It's not always going to be a pleasure, but can we make it painless? And the key to that is the digital story and the great work that's already happening. Just to give you a sense, you may know that New York has 8.5 million residents, but it also has 300,000 employees working for the city of New York. We have about 300,000 people in New York who work in technology companies or in the technology field in non-technology companies. We have 4.5 million people who commute into New York. We have 55 million people who visit New York. That's a lot of people. Somebody looking at that will say, that's a lot of great data. And we don't want it to be about data. We want it to be about the people, about the individual stories, and how we can change people's lives using technology in the appropriate way, not overwhelming them with the technology.
Let me just get a step behind. And you have worked recently at Columbia and then at the Metropolitan Museum and now for the City of New York. And these are all huge institutions that have a long past, long traditions. All the three of them have to adapt to the future and to the digital future and the digital present. And of course, as in the all crusty institutions, they are slow and there are patches of resistance. Tell us, when you have to innovate such, because this is something that each of us will have to experience in the next few months or years, when you have to introduce innovation in an established place, what are the most common mistakes that you'll make and how to avoid them, and what should you do?
Thanks. When I was at Columbia, I was doing this kind of work there, and it was very interesting. And then I moved to the Met, and someone said, how will you get 100 curators to all change? And I had given up 1,200 professors with tenure for 100 curators who think they have tenure. So it was an interesting kind of experience, but it was wonderful because you don't need all 100 curators to immediately change. You need folks who want to step up, you want to get them involved, and they work, and you work with them. And I think that's the key for all of us. Work with the people who want to step up and do new things. Do lots of pilot projects. I believe that that's the only way to have an impact in a big organization is to have pilot projects. I like to say at the Met, we have so many pilots that I feel like we're more pilots than JetBlue. And what we also have to do is to try things and let them fail, because it's not obvious that you can do things and they'll have success. And if they fail, that's okay. And that's not normally possible at a big organization because the momentum itself makes them very intolerant of failure of any kind. And I think that's what we're going to do continue to do in New York City as well. But it's been great to see places like the Met, places like Columbia, and other big institutions. You know, we talk so much about entrepreneurship, and that's one of my jobs at the Met, is to work with all the startups in the ecosystem in New York, but also to think about this idea of intrapreneurship. How do you do innovation in big organizations? And I recommend anyone who is thinking about that to set up a concrete effort to try things. You know the term skunk works, where you're trying something and if it doesn't work, it's okay, it's far away. If it smells, it's somewhere else. But we have seen in so many cases where something starts off as something small, becomes real, and becomes a driving part of the institution. But I think the number one thing all of this takes is an open mind, so that you're willing to try things.
Thank you. Let's go back for a sec to your work at the Metropolitan Museum that was really, I think, seminal. I don't have the most current data, but the Italian museums struggle to make the tourist flow that the Louvre has in Paris. And if you look at Italy, the whole of Sicily with Greek temples, Arab mosques, and churches, and whatever, beaches, wonderful, struggle to make the same amount of tourists that a small town like the Romagnola, Riviera, Riccione, or Rimini does. Very often you visit a museum in Italy and it's like a pre-war experience. You have like the object with a little description, and all the descriptions, even in the city center of the cities, are still written by my art teacher in a liceo of 50 years ago. She was great, 4 years ago. She was great, meaning that this represents the Baroque art, moment of art in Italy. And of course, kids are used to digital and stuff. So what can the Italian museums and what can the Italian cultural institution do next year? I'm not asking you to give us like, if you were from the Soviet Union, a 5-year plan. No, just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think the situation you're describing is true in a lot of cultural sectors and in a lot of cultural institutions all over the world. I mean, I come from India where we have similar instances of this kind of approach. I think the main problem is resources and mindset, and that's the two things. And if the resources, financial resources are harder to kind of bridge, but I think the mindset is easier if you're willing to try on certain things. One of the things I discovered, we do something at the Met called Empty Met, which is we give access to people, influencers and others, to come see the Met before it's open to the public. And it's being done now all over the world, and we did it at Palazzo Grassi in Venice. And the response that they got from people being able to see the palazzo when it was empty was striking, and it's something that you already have. And there are examples like this. The other thing that I would encourage Italian museums and all museums is to tell the stories of the art. I used to tell people my job at the Met was to tell 1 million+ stories about our 1 million+ pieces of art to 1 billion people. Every story, every item at the Met has a story. And how do you bring that alive? And that's what you have to do. That doesn't cost that much money. It costs the effort. You know, the tools that we have in our hand are able to connect you with the world. And I think that makes a big difference. Even what we're doing now with Facebook Live, I think Facebook Live is the most important digital innovation in the last 5 years. I know people in this room who love Snapchat will say otherwise. But I think for institutions, this ability to live stream from anywhere in the world instantly, we've seen it have an impact in politics, we've seen it have an impact in crime and all kinds of things. But for institutions to use it to bring alive the stories of whatever's inside, to open up meetings so people can see, I think is going to have a big continuous impact. So those are some simple things that I would recommend. When I was with our kids in Italy, we went to so many different places. The expo was, of course, an example where you're using the current digital technology. It was very exciting to see what they were able to do there. So I think that, just to get back to this idea in Italy, the importance of not just how things work, which is really important. So for example, some of my friends in the room know that one of my favorite apps is called Dark Sky. And Dark Sky is an app that is a weather app that costs $3. And you'll say, that's ridiculous. Why would I pay $3 for an app when all weather information is free and Al Roker is on TV all the time talking about the weather? And by the way, if you come from abroad, you're amazed at the obsession Americans have with the weather. But the reason I love this app is it tells you one thing, whether it will rain or snow where you're standing in the next hour. So it's really effective, and it's worth the $3. But what's really important is that it's so good because it works, and it's so good because it looks really good. And the design is a part of that. We've had so many apps that work well, but don't work really well because they don't have the attention to design. And I think that's just an example of one of the many things that Italian organizations can take advantage of.
I mentioned earlier on in this conversation the critics of the digital world. Like very recently, Professor Sherry Turkle at Harvard, psychologist of the web, in a book called The Necessary Conversation, said like, well, this is terrible. I mean, you and I are sitting for dinner and we at the same time chatting, and dad, mom, and 2 kids, and they all chat. And the conversation is being completely kidnapped, and this is like some kind of terrible tragedy. And we, when we walk on the street, keep bumping into people that are completely absorbed in their, the New York had a great cartoon with like, you know, tweeting and not tweeting, 2 different lanes for people that tweet and people that don't tweet. With Direttore Lo Storto that I see there at Lewis University, we are trying to have some kind of, you know, conversation about this, how the technology is changing the students, and how can the students take advantage of the technology without being totally alienated. Can I say something about your house?
Can you have a choice?
No, you see, it's not like, once I asked Consul General Genuardi to have another night, Francesco, about me, it's gonna be like a stand-up comedian, Sri and I, and I'll tell you all the joke. The famous, when Sri says the joke that a wife says the husband, "Oh, honey, can I tweet about that?" He goes like, "No, too late." This is something that happened in the break, actually, couples very often. No, at the time when I had dinner at Sri and Rupa, his wife, they had a gadget that if somebody would tweet about Sri, the light would blink. Remember that? And so maybe, Gianni, we could have a Louis room where when somebody tweet about Louis, okay, are you scared? Are we getting crazy with social conversation, or Professor Turkle is a little exaggerated?
Yeah, so before you think that I'm even more narcissistic than I appear, that was an experiment we were doing. You might know this, that there are now, of the Internet of Things, there's this thing called the Philips light bulb, the Hue, which allows you to, not replace these beautiful lights, but other kinds of bulbs. And then you can have it do things. So every time your favorite soccer team scores a goal, it can change into that color. Or every time you get an email from your mother, the light can blink so you know to pick up your phone, things like that. So that was what he's alluding to. We have a rule at our house, no technology at the dinner table. And so everybody puts away their phones. And you may have heard of folks in Wall Street who have this great game that they play, and some of you may have played this, where everybody comes to dinner and you put the phone in the middle of the table, right? And then whoever touches it first pays for dinner. And you make sure you order as many expensive things, especially if your battery has died. If your phone battery has died, you put it in there and then you order the most expensive things because you know you're not going to get a call. And that's an exaggerated way of kind of thinking about this. I have heard about complaints about technology for as long as I've experienced technology. When I was young, I remember that people were really worried how much time young children were spending on the phone, teenagers talking on the phone. And now people say to their children, how come you don't ever talk on the phone? Because they moved on to something else. And every time there's a new technology that parents worry about, my policy is this too shall pass. And I wrote an article in 2000 about too much email. And I thought that we had hit peak communication in 2000. So what does that mean? 2000 was before everybody had a cell phone, before texting, before we had only email. So before people were doing texting, before WhatsApp, before Snapchat, before Twitter, before Facebook, before Messenger, all of these things, and somehow we've accommodated them. I certainly believe that trying to multitask all the time is not good for your brain, but everyone who complains about this is focused on something that's we're going to bottle this moment and say, I wish 2016 was how things were, because it's, now we're going to have VR and AR and I think it's going to be overwhelming what's going to happen. We're just getting started. People ask me to predict what's happening in the future, and I can't do that. If I could, I'd be very rich and somewhere else. But I can tell you that the pace of change that we've seen in the last 10 years, which is dramatic, is nothing compared to what we're going to see in the next 10 years. It's going to be faster and more dramatic, and the velocity is going to be hard to even imagine. But we're going there, and so what does that mean for us? And I think all of us have a responsibility in choosing the right technologies for how we interact with each other, and not getting caught up in doing all the new things. You don't have to do everything that's new. Find the things that make sense for you.
Thank you. We have a message from Ambassador Varricchio, if I'm right. He just came out of organizing the trip of the Italian Prime Minister, very successful trip of the Italian Prime Minister. Here he is.
Welcome to the inaugural event of New York Loves Italy. It is our way to nurture the strong ties between New York and Italy, between New Yorkers and Italians. It is an opportunity for us to show how Italy has shaped and is shaping so many successful New Yorkers in their professional undertakings. New York Loves Italy is aimed at connecting with Italians and Americans whose success have been inspired by Italy's creativity and heritage. It is about bringing together communities around common denominators and exploring the future to come. It is an intense agenda that will explore areas such as design, the arts, sport, food, architecture, fashion, as well as technology and innovation. This is why I'm particularly happy that today's talk is about digital, about the challenges and the opportunities that it offers. A special thank goes to Sri, the Chief Innovation Officer of the City of New York, and Gianni, who will guide our conversation today. Gianni knows very well our activity in the field of digital diplomacy and our passion for bringing innovation to the foreign policy arena. This inspiration comes from Italy's commitment to implement a digital agenda that benefits citizens and makes government services more user-friendly, clearer, and faster. And to this end, this October, a new digital team embedded within the Office of the Prime Minister in Rome started to work on the first ever Italian government startup, another step towards a more digital Italy. Thank you all for coming tonight, and I hope to be there with you soon at one of the next events.
Grazie, allora, grazie, thank you all'ambasciatore. No, I thought it was over.
Shall we stand? I think if that's okay.
Okay, no, fine. This is quite interesting, Sri, because I'm here in a kind of difficult position, because my role has always been to try to spur Italy to more innovation. I have so many colleagues here that I see the Leonardo Metalli and Tiziana Ferrari of TG1, and they remember when we were trying to introduce more technology, more websites on the TG1, nobody was very happy. And Signora Cometto, when we tried to do the same at Corriere della Sera, not exactly everybody was pleased, and on and on and on and on. I think that what I've learned from you, but now I see in a lot of places, is that actually very often technology brings us together more than sets us aside. Kids tend to do video games, 3, 4 at the same time, challenge. Oh, have you passed that level? I'll teach you to pass the level. Last night during the debate, I was chatting with Linda and Karen about the debate, how we see who won, who lost. I was trying to play the conservative to Linda being the radical, and we both succeeded. And it's actually the other way around. Does technology puts us together? It's more like really putting real, and I'm not talking putting us together on the web, meaning then physically, because we met on the web, but then we're here.
Yeah, I think that the future of all business is making the connection between the physical and the digital, the in-person and the online. And how do you continue to make that happen? At the Met, we had a simple idea about creating what we call a virtuous circle. You make the online experience so fantastic that people want to come in person. You make the in-person experience so fantastic that people want to stay in touch and get your emails and get your social and follow you. So how do we make that, I think for every industry is something that we will all be thinking about. I'm actually, if I could ask the Consul General a question about this idea in the Prime Minister's office, they're going, what is that going to mean for diplomacy from your point of view?
A lot, and this new office will be headed by Piacentini, who was the top manager of Amazon, who will stay in Italy for 1 year pro bono. And I think, well, it's an amazing opportunity for all the civil servants to reshape our agenda, our ideas, and to try to be more and more open and innovative. I think it's a new experiment, and I don't know how many other European countries, European partners have done the same so far.
I also have a question for Gianni. He's teaching a class about computers and machines writing novels. Talk about that, please.
We haven't succeeded so far to produce one. There are quite a few online. They're all very bad. There was one that is Russian, True Love, and is actually getting there. The computers have been much, much better in writing songs. Microsoft just had a few, and Google just had a few songs. One is like big band tune, one is Beatles tune, and they're pretty nice. Poems, for reasons that, of course, each of you can easily get. Machine-produced poems are much better than novel, because the machine, the jazz rhythm of the poem is much easier for the machine to learn than the novel. What we are now working on, inspired by the work of Italo Calvino, since we are here in Italian soil. And again, Giovanna Calvino, Calvino's daughter that lives here in New York, gave me this wonderful new translation. And it's that maybe the machine is not the single computer, the PC or the Mac, that the machine maybe is the web. Maybe the machine is the web. And the web does produce a lot of art and a lot of cultural projects. We're studying now, I don't know if you're familiar with that, as read as two teenager kids maybe. We are studying now Slender Man. The Slender Man saga of this thriller, this horror character that was started by this video game guy on the web, and this project of this ghost that terrorizes kids and tries to kill kids got a life on its own. Thousands of wonderful videos were added to the web, tales, stories, more urban tales. A lot of kids start do believe that Slenderman is real, to the point that in at least a couple of cases they knifed each other to try to win the sympathy of Slenderman. And so this is like a fairy tale that was born on the web and took a life on its own on the web. So this is like a very nasty and scary story, but there are quite a wonderful story. And I guess so, yes, I agree with, also my point is really about the novel written by the computer is that I read so many bad novels written by humans. Why not one written by the computer, right?
So how far are we from a computer?
You know, this guy, a lot of technology guys said that in 2019, a very good one will be written. Some that can pass the Turing test and be enjoyed by the people. I don't know if 2 years is enough. there isn't that much money. I'm positive that if Google and Musk would put the same amount of money that they're putting on the self-driving car, they would get it there. But it's a matter of like 4 or 5 years.
And what about the short story? Has that happened?
The short story is much easier because the character have to interact. There are very few very nice short stories written by computer. It's easier because the software has a more limited angle. And one of my students actually is trying to produce a short story by computer by Christmas, so it should be close.
Keep us posted.
Okay, I will. Okay. Okay, the second message, she's the some sort of Milanese Sri, right? Milanese Sri. Sri alla milanese, I would say.
Hello everyone, I am Roberta Cocco and I am the Counselor for Digital Transformation and Services to Citizens for Municipality of Milan. First of all, let me thank you, the Council, Francesco Genuardi, who invited me to be partially with you tonight. Tonight is a very important event because it's one event connected to the big and amazing activity New York Loves Italy. And especially tonight, you are going to discuss two of my key topics, digital and innovation. I'm also very happy because the discussion will see two amazing guests, Gianni Riotta and Sri. And I had the great opportunity to meet the two of them. I am sure that you are having a great discussion on innovation. I really would like to be with you. Unfortunately, I'm here in Milan, but I hope that this event will be a part of a partnership that we can set up between the city of Milan and the city of New York, especially on digital topics. Thanks again for this invitation. I wish you a great discussion and a very pleasant night. Good luck.
And the interesting thing is that this is what I love about Sri, that this is like, you cannot curse here at the Italian consulate, of course, but this is like Professor Sreenivasan of the city of New York, formerly with the Metropolitan Museum and Columbia University, and one of the most respected guru of the digital age. But in Italy, Sri, hi Sri, Sri. I mean, it's impossible that you will see an Italian from the President of the Republic to the guy that will go to his class that call him Professor Sreenath. They all go like, Sri, how you doing, Sri? Oh, yes, my cousin. One of the things that I remember from your class has been haunting me since. You said at a certain point, education, universities, the world of academy is now pretty much where the newspaper industry was like, let's say, 10 years ago, and where the music industry was 20 years ago. Meaning, or we could say like the taxi cab were like 5 years ago, meaning that the web is coming, the MP3 is coming to music, the websites are coming for newspapers, Uber came for the taxi cab, something else, Coursera, I don't know what, is coming from the universities. What universities have to do in order to not be taken over by innovation?
I should say just about the video from Milan. It was so nice, and I hope you'll all follow. Robbie Coco is her Twitter handle. I hope you'll follow her. I'm actually perhaps the only person in the room spending Thanksgiving in Italy this year. Anna Macera, who is opening a new journalism school in Turin, wrote to me and asked me to come in early November, and I said, I can't leave the city. I'm just starting my job. If it happens to be on Thanksgiving, I could have come, and presuming, of course, she's not going to do it, but she arranged it for Thanksgiving, so our family is spending Thanksgiving in Turin and in Milan, so we'll be seeing Robbie as well. I think your question about education, and I think after this we'll open it up to the audience, is a really good one. I think that in many ways education has not changed in 2,000 years. You know, you think about the time when if you had Abraham Lincoln or Socrates, depending how far back you want to go, comes to New York and goes into a modern class, there isn't that much that's different. There's a professor and students in the room. I think there's something magical about a classroom where it's just you and the students without a lot of technology. But there are ways in which people are learning that's different from today. So a couple of simple things that we were working on and we're thinking about. I should tell you there's a Princeton professor who taught a Coursera course. And some of you know about the MOOCs, right? The massive open online courses, Coursera, edX, HarvardX, MIT, all of these I think are very interesting. There's Udacity. In fact, Sebastian Thrun, T-H-R-U-N, was the professor, was the Google employee who helps launch two big innovations. One is the driverless car, and the other is the free open giant course. And depending on who you are, one might be more scary than the other, right? And I met a Princeton professor who taught a class of 49,000 students. And he was used to teaching Princeton classes of 10 students. And he said, actually, it's somewhat similar experience in that the same number of problem students are there in the big class, but the percentage is the same percentage, but the numbers are obviously when you have 49,000 students. And he said he would do it again, and he did teach it again, but he could see some of the problems with trying new things. I think the answer for the educational system is to make the professors and the students, the interaction be on multiple platforms when the professor wants, when the students want it. I think that's really important. You're going to see the rise of Coursera and these other platforms have an impact on things that we never expected. For example, young students today are going to take courses in advance on Coursera and see a professor's manner, scholarship, how they teach in high school, and they're going to decide where they want to go. You will not be able to rely on your old notes from 20 years ago. A lot of professors are like that. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them are like that. And so you have to meet the students where they are, and a lot of that's understanding technology without overdoing it, and that's going to be the key. So shall we take some questions?
One more from me, because this is like the question that you should always ask Sri when you have him handy, and then the floor is yours, guys. What should we do online now? What, should we dump Facebook and get Snapchat? Is Instagram the real thing? What are like the 10 things, the 10 apps, the 10 things that we should do next year?
Wow. Okay. Oh, I'm not going to give you 10 things, but I would love to hear from all of you. What do you have on your phone that we should all know about? I'll give you a. But I'll give you a couple of thoughts on this question. And certainly in the last few years, we heard about Facebook fatigue, that people are tired of Facebook. All the kids are on Twitter and Instagram, all of that. I mean, Snapchat. And I would say that what Facebook has done in the last 2 years is the empire strikes back. And we have seen Facebook with its innovation in Facebook Live, but also in things like you know, when the safety check feature, when the tragedy happened in Italy, the importance of people being able to say they're okay. You saw what a difference that made. What they're doing with fundraising, what they're doing. There's so many things that Facebook, I think, is going to continue to do. And if you don't like Facebook, Mr. Zuckerberg has many other things, including WhatsApp and also Instagram, that he's going to get you some. There are 1 billion people using Messenger as a separate app from Facebook. So that tells you how many people are pervasive in using this technology. In terms of the thing that I have seen that's really interesting is we're going to continue to have mass broadcasting as an idea where people want to reach as many people as possible and things like this. But also the importance of sharing content with smaller groups of influencers in your life are really important. My kids find as much interest in, we have a group with their grandparents and uncles and aunts in 3 continents. And they love posting content there because people who matter to them are reading it, as opposed to just putting on Instagram where, you know, lots of people may see it or not. So I think that kind of connection is going to be really important. I think that more tools that take advantage of the geolocation of what you're doing, and we're going to see even more emphasis on local content and local connections. I think that's going to be very exciting going forward.
I think I'm going to write a book, the little red book of Chairman Sri, inspired by Mao, because another thing came back in my mind, Sri, when Sri taught us 99% of what you put online, nobody will read it or nobody will pay attention to it, 99%. Then when you tweet really the one stupid thing that you should not have tweeted or posted on Facebook, the one that will put you in trouble, then everybody will read it and start persecuting you. So watch out. Domande? Io porto il microfono. Maria Teresa.
Thank you.
She's Maria Teresa Cometto, Corriere della Sera.
Thank you, Gianni, for the introduction. First of all, hi, Sri. I want to congratulate Consul General Francesco Genuardi for this brilliant idea of opening the consulate to innovation and this new stuff. And Gianni, at the beginning, mentioned how Italy was really focused on innovation 50 years ago, and he mentioned P101, the first personal computer made in Italy in Ivrea by the Olivetti team. And about that, last year in November, we celebrated the launch of P101 in Italy at the Italian Cultural Institute with an exhibition. But I would stress that with that exhibition, and we should also remember that also today there are a lot of Italians doing fantastic things in innovation. In fact, one thing that was at the exhibition was the espresso machine, which maybe you know because it made the coffee drank by our astronaut Samantha on the International Space Ship, which was not just a marketing stunt or something funny, but the engineer from Turin who made it explained that it was a very serious program with NASA about how training the astronaut and so on. What I want to do to stress is that there are a lot of young innovators in Italy today, but maybe we are not so good at telling the stories. Sri said how important it is to make things live, be able to tell a story. So do you have any suggestion about how to make sexy stories about technology innovation, which is not an easy thing to do?
Thank you, and thanks for making that point. I think that's really important. I think that you can certainly find that even big companies that are traditionally not focused on telling their stories. You look at what GE is doing, for example, in telling the stories of one of the things they do is that they find somebody who's worked in a GE aircraft engine factory for 35 years and getting him or her to tell the story of work and what they have seen in the past as a way of showing the human side of it. I think it all goes back to that human side. We need to make everything more human and to show the human relationship to the products you're designing, what's working, what's not, and then sharing the story along the way. And the other part I would emphasize to all of you, some of you know a big company called Khan Academy in terms of education. There's a guy named Sal Khan who's giving free education online. In fact, somebody once told me they took a course about Bernini on Khan Academy, and it was really good. It was originally only about math, but they were doing all kinds of humanities and art. And he said something to me at the Met that was very distressing. He said, the vast majority of people whose lives I can change tonight have never heard of Khan Academy and will never hear of Khan Academy. So if you cannot give free education to people, then how can you do anything else? And so how can you sell other objects or products. So I think the key is to have a real marketing plan for everything you do, every stage of your company, every part of your organization, every part of your government, so that when people start hearing about what you're doing, then they're interested. Les Hinton, who is the former editor of the publisher of the Wall Street Journal, he said the scarcest resource of the 21st century is human attention. And I love that sentence because it shows us how difficult it is to get people to pay attention. Look at all these folks who are here and they've stayed for an hour in the busiest city in the world, right? I mean, that's the amazing part, that if you can get to folks and if they pay you with their attention, there's so much you can do.
This is something interesting. This is something that is going to hit you very soon about big data. You know, there is all the debate about big data, big data, big data. I'm working with a small startup and with the Louis on big data. So you have this company. Let's take American Express, okay? They have like over a century data in their belly. Now we can analyze them, okay? And you analyze the last year of data from American Express all over the world and put them in perspective with the hundreds of years that they've been around. Then you have to take your analysis to the CEO. And the CEO says, okay, 5 minutes at 6 o'clock Friday. And you have 5 minutes to give all those tetrabzillions of data and to make a presentation, let 5 million, think about the President of the United States, even more. So the deficit attention that you're talking about, the normal people like us, when you take the data and you have to convince the leader, becomes a terrible problem. So data visualization is crucial, number one. And where the hope for a job for my humanities students is narrative. We went combing millions of data, as this means that A, B, C. What do you say? You want A, B, or C? Narrative and data visualization. Because the attention is a scarce commodity. More questions? C'è la signora lì in fondo, non so se... Te lo porto io, guarda. You know, I did this very famous show where they would like... No, c'ho prima lei, poi tu. Two more, yeah.
Thank you.
We collect a few questions and then you answer all of them. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, thank you to Consul Genuardi for this lovely night and evening. I have a couple of curiosity for both of you. One is, how do you keep yourself updated and how do you catch up with the latest technology?
So, I can answer right away.
Sorry, can I ask another?
Well, go ahead.
Since I have the microphone, sorry. And can you share with this audience the websites or the app you can't live without?
Okay. That you can say it in public. My answer, madam, is very easy because when you say like, how do you keep abreast of the innovation, I ask Linda Bernstein that I ask her what should I follow and she tells me. Linda.
Sri, I was wondering if you had seen the most recent issue of Consumer Report, which I read before I went to bed the other night and then had nightmares because it was all about privacy. And I got up the next morning and put a sticky note in front of the camera on my laptop. And I'm just wondering about I am supposedly a careful person, but this article in Consumer Report gave me 170 ways that I am not keeping my data safe. And I'm just wondering about what we are gaining at the expense of possibly what we are losing in terms of privacy?
Thank you. One more, Sri, and then we go back to... Un'altra domanda? One more? La signora lì.
Hi, thank you, and good evening. What a fascinating conversation.
Tell us who you are.
Oh, yeah. I'm Gianni Riotta. I actually work with Penny at the Mayor's Office for International Affairs. You spoke, Sri, and you also spoke Gianni, about mistakes and, you know, being willing to take mistakes and take risks. So I guess the question is, in a very digital age, and as someone who works for the city of New York, and now speaking to someone who works for the city of New York, what do you do if you make a mistake, but a big mistake in a very public way, now that we have access to so many different kind of social media channels and other technology? How do you solve for that, and what do you do?
I think that this is a really big question for all of us. So I think when you make a mistake, you acknowledge it, and you make amends as much as you can, but knowing that it's out there. You know, people, I see folks delete things thinking it's gone, but it's not. You know, it's there forever, as you heard already. And I remember this from the email days. Some of you may have seen this. Outlook has a feature that pretends you can recall messages. Have you ever seen this? And this happened in an office situation that I was part of, where somebody accidentally attached a document that had everyone's salary. To a regular email, it had an attachment, and nobody opened it and nobody cared. But the person who sent it sent an email saying, "I'm recalling that message." So you know what happened. Then everybody read the attachment, and that's how that happened. So sometimes technology makes you think you can solve a problem, retrieve that message. It doesn't do it. And I think acknowledging it is crucial, and then making sure that you're giving a context to what happened. The other part of it is really, are you posting so infrequently that every message is filled with opportunity for problems? If you only post twice a week, every post is a danger because there's so few. But if you're posting 2 times a day, then people are more forgiving because you're sharing, and sometimes on the fly something's happened. So that's my suggestion to folks, is that participate, and then people know who you are and they understand, because the first time you post, if you make a mistake, that can be a problem. To go to the question from Linda, and by the way, please follow Linda. She's at WordWhacker on Twitter, and is terrific. Linda's question about privacy is that something that we should all care about. Maybe we should all read that article and figure out how do we make sure that we're conscious of privacy. In the city, we're talking about smart cities. You know, there are things like smart garbage cans. Well, now do you worry about that your garbage can knows how much exactly your food you're wasting, or how much you're recycling or not recycling? These are all questions that we have to wrestle with. So I will look at that. The other mention of Consumer Reports also reminds me that Consumer Reports is an institution that has just undergone a rebranding after all these years, and has changed itself to be more relevant in the digital age, as has MetLife, the big company. Today they announced a new logo, and they got rid of a beloved character that many of us know. Snoopy is gone as of today. He was, I don't want to say killed, but he was taken off the website. He was retired from the website of MetLife with a new logo. So even big institutions that are successful, they need to constantly be updating and refreshing, and that doesn't always go well, but sometimes it does. And then to the question, you had asked 2 questions. One was, what's something you can't do without, and the other one was, how do you keep abreast? So I keep abreast with Gianni and Karen and others. We have a little group where we're sharing information, but I would invite you all to a closed Facebook group that I run, that you can find on Facebook if you search Sree's Advanced Social. So Sree''S Advanced. If you join that group, we have about 5,000 people. It sounds like a big group, but it's folks who work in some of the biggest digital jobs in the world and biggest digital companies, as well as journalists. And throughout the day, they're posting digital topics of what's happening. And more importantly, also, if you have a question about something digital, you post it there, you'll have people answer it. It's a great community, not because of me, but because of the people there. So just on Facebook, if you ask for Sree''S Advanced, Sree's Advanced, you'll find a lot of good stuff. So what is one website that you can't live without?
Just wanted to answer your question, and then I'll go to the website. What about how can I correct a mistake? When we write something on the web or add some content on the web, the metaphor that we have in mind is writing. Writing had like endless way of correcting. In the book, you had like proofreading. In an article, you have like the typos that you could correct. I remember as a young man waiting to the mailbox, saying to the mailman, "Would you give me back? I don't want to mail that letter anymore. Give it back to me." But the real metaphor is driving. When you drive, you don't focus on how can I correct my mistake once I've done it. Well, I have insurance. Well, of course, if I can go to jail. I have many ways of correcting. When you drive, you focus on not committing any mistake, okay? You want to go day by day, year by year, without committing mistakes while you're driving. Adding content on the web, the real metaphor is driving. Don't focus on how you can correct that. Focus on be safe. Be safe. Meaning that never, if you're drunk, you don't drive, right? I wanted to say something, but okay. When you're drunk, don't tweet. Or if it's 3 a.m., don't tweet. Same thing if you're under the substances. But same thing even if an issue makes you really angry, emotionally angry. If I can tweet even if I'm terribly angry, simply because since I was a kid, I've always gone through providing content for a living through my passions. But the couple of days ago, when Bob Dylan got the Nobel Prize, I did something that I almost never do. I attacked personally somebody, okay? A very famous and prominent Italian writer that said like, they should have given him a Grammy. What does Bob Dylan have to do with fiction? I thought of you. I wrote the tweet on paper, and I left the tweet on my desk for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I reread it. I said, I'm going to tweet it. And I did. But it wasn't on a spur. So the first issue, madam, is have paywalls. Have paywalls so you don't make mistakes. Then, if you make mistakes, there are ways of cleaning them up. But none of them are cheap and none of them are painless. C'era un amico, l'amico del... Do you want an honest answer? Nothing is more me than trying to be fair about issues. Nothing. I hate people that say like, I say that because in soccer, the fastest reaction is the best reaction. In politics, no. In public conversation, no. The best reaction is the best reaction, okay? So I did it, and now I feel there was like huge brouhaha in Italy, and of course the guy will is waiting for me to exact revenge soon. But no, I don't think that. I think that me definitely was waiting and thinking and pondering about the issue, and I think it should be you too.
Can I just show you an example? I gave the phone to our colleague here to do the Facebook Live, which he's happily doing, but I didn't realize he's seeing all my text messages, all the things are coming live as he's doing that. So, this is, I don't know if my wife has been writing to me, my family. All of those messages are coming live, and now Francesco is also looking. So they're not going out, but sometimes you worry about privacy with one person as much as you worry about privacy with the whole world. So that's an issue. So.
L'amico di lui e il direttore Ross ha sentito la conversazione when Sreenath talked about changing the logo. This is something that he talks about us a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good evening, everyone. Our question is Lewis University. I mean, as Gianni was mentioning, we have several projects in big data, smart data, and we are trying to develop our, our offer in order to match the skill gaps which are now in the modern labor market. We deal mainly with the business and law and political sciences, but we are strongly reinforcing our, let's say, technological skills. From your perspective, from your experience, what would you suggest to a higher education institution in order to, as much as possible, I'm going to say, improve the offer to match those needs in terms of skills, technological skills, to fill the digital gap in our culture?
Sure, this is something that the city is thinking a lot about. The city, I just learned today, has something called the technology talent pipeline, tech talent pipeline, and and my friend Dawn, who is very plugged into all things New York technology. You should talk to her. Dawn Barber is her name. They went to universities and then they went to employers and said, what is the problem with the technology talent that you see, the tech talent? And the answer was that you're training people for things that we can't hire them today for. So you might go to some of the best universities and you have great theoretical knowledge, but you don't know how to actually do on a proper basis what I need you to start day one. And that's one of the issues. But this has been an issue with kind of the classical education. When you go to a top law school, you learn, you can think you know how to be in front of the Supreme Court, but you don't know the nuts and bolts of having your own little practice. Or if you're an architect, you're learning how to build or thinking about the grand scale of wonderful architecture, but most people are going to get jobs that are to think about HVAC and all those things. So I think that education institutions need to come down off their high horse a little bit so that they are giving the tools and the learning that employers want. Otherwise, they're going to come from other places and it's going to be an issue. Somebody's going to make that match really well, and we've seen Stanford do that in a way that's why Stanford has thrived in Silicon Valley, because they speak to what the Valley needed at that time.
For example, both Sri and I come from Columbia Graduate School of Journalism. But for example, the City University with Jeff Jarvis and Jeremy Kaplan, they have a wonderful program that is, they teach a class that 10 years ago or 15 years ago wasn't there, didn't exist. Entrepreneurial journalism, meaning I want to be a journalist. Who's going to hire me? Nobody. So I will have a startup or a website, or I will work with maybe I'll be like with any, like the project that Marco Bardazzi is doing at Eni, or Maurizio Abbott is doing at Pirelli, that they have this huge content provider website. But they teach the kid to be an entrepreneur, so that this is a skill that the traditional schools don't, because they assume that the New York Times or the New Yorker is going to hire you. And I'm positive for us there is a huge space with a very successful business school to grow. Oh, really? You see, I didn't know. Great. So, yeah, when I found it, to me, it was like total novelty, and I'm glad it wasn't just out of my huge ignorance, but also because it was really innovative. I think we can get like one more question. Vai, Leonardo Metalli. Let me ask something. And I have a disclaimer. It is with, Leonardo Metalli was my main anchor for entertainment and culture and music when I was the editor of TG1, and he's reluctantly that I leave the mic in his hands. And as a disclaimer, whatever Leonardo says, it's his responsibility, okay?
Absolutely, like a journalist. So now I have to
he
say,
even publish on the web a picture of me and
yes, sure,
and
Will Smith.
And Will
Smith. I have it. So I have to say thank you to Gianni Riotta, because he was the first to introduce web on TG1 a long time ago. I'm a witness.
Leonardo, when I die, when I die.
He's doing again here in Consul General. So I have to say thank you, all of people here, because we need to improve our culture with the web. So in New York and also in the United States, that's had tradition. I don't know. but we have to do that. And we're talking about that for a long time, I hope. Thank you.
Sì.
When people ask me about the Met and say, what was my biggest achievement? Sometimes I joke and say, my biggest achievement was banning the selfie stick at the Met. So I'm very proud of that. But I would like to take a selfie with all of you, if that's okay. If you all stay where you are, and Ambassador, if you stay there, Gianni, would you come? We'll just get a selfie of everybody. All right, one. Gianni, where? Oh, you're there. Okay, okay, one. Is everyone in there? Let's see how many I can get in. I can just go back a little more. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, and everyone wave, please. Yay. Thank you very much.
Okay.